no matter where you work at around this country, what if I told you, hey, you get to decide how your last year or two goes at your job. You get to literally call the shot. You get to tell your boss what you want to do, how you want to do it, when you want to do it, and where you want to do it. That's kind of what Chris Paul has at his disposal right now. It appears that his days in Phoenix are numbered. We'll see if the Suns can work something out, waive him, and bring him back at a lower rate. But pretty much Phoenix is telling Chris, yo, we really, really like you, but we are not in love with you anymore because your body is not in love with you anymore. You get injured a lot in the playoffs. We can't afford to do that with KD and Devin Booker the way that they can put a ball in the bucket. We like you, though. We'll keep you. We just like you, though. We ain't in love with you. So they're telling Chris that's what's up. They might get Bradley Beal or whom else, right? For Chris Paul, he gets to decide the end to his story. If the Suns let him go and say, hey, you can come back here or you can hit that dough, Chris can look around and say, okay, I can go to Phoenix. I can stay right where I'm at. My daughter doesn't have to leave the school again. Maybe I wanted to get her out of the school that she's at, but my kids don't got to leave the school that they're at. I can humble myself and take, he probably can still make $7-8 million with Phoenix. I could take some off the dollar and stay right where I'm at and not have to move around. That's the safest route. If Chris really wants to go after a championship that he's been chasing, then to me, clear as day, the move he should make for winning only is to go to Boston. Finish his career out with the Celtics. You know, obviously there's a lot of money in Boston. You know, go connect with the Robert Krabs of the world and go ahead and, you know, start getting more businesses set up post-career. And you literally compliment Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, to me, perfectly what they need at point guard in Boston. Again, how Chris got to Boston, there are a couple options. You could, in theory, if he gets waived, you can sign him straight up and down if he's willing to take less, a lot less. Or you can work out a trade. I'm sure Phoenix would like to have a guy by the name of Marcus Smart. Chris could also go to Los Angeles routes. There are two teams in LA, but these are two totally different situations to me. Number one, he can go to the Clippers, a team that he already played for. Try to right the wrongs of what happened under Doc Rivers. Now with Ty Lue. I think Chris and Ty are better friends than Chris and Doc, if I'm not mistaken. He can go out with Ty Lue and just pray. It is a prayer that Kawhi's going to be healthy one of these runs, that Paul George is going to be healthy one of these runs. It's a prayer. It's a long shot. It does get him to LA, though, where he does have a home. And speaking of LA, there's the other team. Now, the Lakers are in a unique spot. They're semi-contenders. The Lakers have LeBron, a close friend of CP3's the last time I checked. Chris could come to LA, go back to his other home, play ball with a friend of his. I'm sure him and AD's got a working relationship, maybe even closer to that. It kind of works with the Lakers. They're just very injury prone. Not as injury prone as the Clippers, but also very injury prone. And I don't think the Lakers are going to mortgage their future to get Chris either. I think the Clippers will do a lot to get Chris. They really wanted a point guard, you know, that they could trust with the ball. And Ty Lue would love to just say, here's the game. Here, take it. You know, I think the Lakers have some steam to it. Again, to me, I believe it will be Chris taking a lot less. I do. Could he really be cool with taking a lot less than what the Clippers would offer him in the same building just to save face and play with LeBron? Is it really worth it? Right? There are a multitude of options out there for Chris Paul. And by the way, there are a lot of other teams that would love to have Chris. He can still get a bag in this league from one of the bad teams in the league. Like, there are other things and other teams that would love to have Chris. And I think they still give him $15-20 million a year. You know, Chris can really pretty much walk off the court in a wheelchair. That's how long I think teams will pay him. This ain't Kyrie Irving or one of these guys that I don't believe is going to be able to close their career when they want to. I think the league is going to push them out. This ain't Stephon Marbury or Allen Iverson. You know, at the end of the day, Chris Paul is well beloved by organizations. We got a lot of guys that are loved by teammates like Allen Iverson, James Harden, but you got organizations that love Chris and what he brings to the table. He's a pretty safe brand. State Farm, You don't need to know where he's at 3 a.m. The thing with Chris is you've always known where he's not at 3 a.m. And that's a big deal to these teams. You know, he can have a job forever. What he did with Oklahoma City, you know, in 1920, I think resonates with these organizations. And I think they would love to have CP3 in their locker room, if nothing else. Think San Antonio maybe, to nurture in the next generation of hoopers, to be hard on them, to be a hard coach on the court. You know, can you imagine Victor Wembanyama getting coached by Popovich on the sidelines and Chris in the games? That sounds like hell. I might want to go to college for all that. Anywho, I think Chris Paul gets to decide how his future ends. It's a blessing to have. He's had a legendary career. He gets to close it out the way he wants to close it out. I'm interested to see where his head at. Smart dude too, so we shall see in the upcoming days how Chris plays this one out. Welcome to NBA offseason 2023. You're in great hands with Hoops FERRO. There's no network behind me. There's no budget behind me. Just straight grind and hoops talk. If you don't want to miss a beat this offseason from trades, free agent signings, and draft talk, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Let's run these numbers up. It's free $99 to show me that you support the grind. Let's go.